Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching A Healthy Alternative. Today, I have another special guest. Today, Vicki, one of the members from the community, is going to be talking to us about her wellness journey. And guess what, y'all? Vicki has lost 172 pounds and counting. So she has had an amazing transformation so far. I'm really excited to get into the thick of this and see what her journey's been like. So stay tuned. That's coming up next. We're missing a piece of the puzzle. You start getting healthy and you just become a better person.
We need to start focusing more on the individual.
All right, Vicki. So welcome to the channel.
Hey, thank you. I'm very excited. I love this. When I connected with you on Facebook, I got my heart racing because I was like, oh my gosh, this is one of the channels that I watched and utilized during my journey. So I was like, I got all flush in the face and everything. I'm like, oh my God, I'm fangirling right now.
That's always an exciting reaction. And I think it's so amazing for someone to, at the start of their journey, especially learning about fasting, utilize the videos on A Healthy Alternative and then come full circle and be one of the people being promoted on the channel. That just doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, I can feel a little flush now, getting a little excited.
So that's good motivation for those out there who are at the beginning of their journey. Hey, you could be here too.
Come to this side, yeah.
Well, you look amazing, and everybody was really excited to see your progress and everything like that. So we're interested in getting more into the details of your journey. But I always like to start at the beginning. I think it's always important to figure out, what prompted you to want to have this massive change in your life. So tell us, where were you at the beginning of your health journey mentally and physically that caused you to want to make this change?
Physically, I was at about 365 pounds. I was in the midst of the aftermath of dealing with just losing my grandmother, who had just previously 10 months before lost her husband, my grandfather.
Wow.
They were my only family that I had down here in Florida. I have family up in New England, but when you have family in close proximity. When I moved down to Florida 10 years previous, I moved in with them, and I was their granddaughter, I was their only family down here. And to have first my grandfather pass away due to a very sedentary lifestyle and everything that comes with it. He had diabetes and everything. And then to see my grandmother pretty much follow suit. And I know there's lots of studies out there that say, the wives of, husbands that pass away will, soon follow. They were married for over 55 years. So to see him first pass literally before my eyes, and then to see her health decline, amidst all my, recommendations of trying to help guide her to not go down that path, really started to become very emotionally taxing on me. And, before that, I was never really a skinny woman or a skinny girl, even through adolescence and stuff. Prior to that, to kind of preface a little bit more, my mom, their only blood daughter, actually passed away in 2000, and they moved down to Florida. And they were the type of people, I love them, obviously, love them still, but they were the type of people to just perpetuate on that negativity and just relive every single day like it was the same day that she had passed away.
Wow.
And I know that that's not honoring her memory. And I always had a problem with the way that they dealt with their grief, and it wasn't dealt with properly. So to have that progress into, other health conditions, and then my grandfather passing away, and to see my grandmother, quickly spiral out of control, to have, she wasn't walking, she, couldn't get up from different, where places where she was sitting. There were times where I avoided going over to her house or helping her, answering her phone call, because it was just it hurt so much. And, I would go home and I would just do what I knew to do and just eat and fill my face. And that, my weight just got wider. I just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it got to a point where, she called me once, and she couldn't get off of the toilet, and I knew we had to, you know, she had to go into a facility. And within her time at the facility, it was probably like, gosh, not more than like 4 or 5 months that she was at the facility, that she just refused physical therapy. And a big thing that I experienced when we went to go visit her on Mother's Day, and I think this is a big deal, like as part of my journey as well. When we went to go visit her on Mother's Day, we brought her a little pot of flowers. I went to go and give it to her, and she's laying in bed. Happy Mother's Day, Nana. I love you. The first words that she said out of her mouth wasn't thank you, wasn't I love you, wasn't Happy Mother's Day. The first words out of her mouth were that she said, I want to die.
Wow.
On Mother's Day. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't take it. And I knew that that was like the beginning of the end of her time. And it wasn't too much longer after that, you know, she transitioned to hospice, and to see her, like, you know, developing the dementia and everything, it was, gosh, so emotionally freaking taxing on me that, you know, I would go home and just shovel it in, like amidst other things. So when she did pass on the 1st of June, 2008, I had like I know it wasn't like it's a close family member, but my world was shocked, because that was like the family that I had at the time. So we had her entire house and everything to deal with. So we were unsure if we were going to be staying at her house or what was going to be figuring out. But I just had a realization one time, you know, I was looking in the mirror or whatever, and I was like, wow, I foresee, if I continue on this self-sabotaging, like pity party, like feeding my emotions thing, that I'm going to end up right like them. It's almost like I had like a moment of like an epiphany sort of moment. And I was like, I got to do something about this. And previously that I had done like ketogenic kind of like partial meal replacement programs that, you know, had worked, but there was that thread missing of like that sustainability for a longevity, like, you know, maintenance, that I was like, something was missing. So I'm just like flipping through YouTube, looking at stuff and looking at like keto, like stuff. And I knew I had to find something. I was like, oh, I just, you know, want to see what I can find. And I think I have no idea. I tried actually looking through my YouTube history. I'm like, what was that first video that I watched? And it had to be like some testimonial about this guy that did like 30 days just water. And I was like, no way, there's no way. And I'm watching it, and I watched like the whole video, and I was like, you know what? And you know how it like recommends you watch a video, and then it recommends like some more videos. And I just kept like watching and more. And the more I saw, by like, obviously the testimonial, like not credible, but like the other subsequent videos that come after that of like, you know, doctor this and who like this report, and, you know, there's some like Thomas DeLauer ones get peppered in there, and then like this person's get peppered in there. And I'm like, oh, wow. The more I watched it, the more I was intrigued and was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work for me, but I'm going to try it. Like I did my first 2 weeks of it is when I was like, wow, this is really got some clout, and really it's got some power to it. I need to stick with this. So, you know, physically, like I said, I was 365 pounds, and those first 2 weeks, like 21 pounds came off like nothing, like I was hardly even trying. And that was just doing like a 16-8. And I was like, really? And it was just, you know, not eating breakfast. And I was like, I got 2 kids, and, you know, school, errand stuff in the morning. And then by the time I was eating, it was usually like around like 1 o'clock or so. And I'm like, yeah, this is doable. This I can do. And I watched more videos that kept saying like, you know, if you're having success, you know, minimize your eating window, make it smaller. Like I saw the Dr. Jason Fung videos where he's like, you know, shorten that eating window, and, you know, push yourself and challenge a little bit more. And I feel like, I think it was a couple months or so into that journey when I started like shrinking that window, that I didn't have like those emotional, like whenever I felt those emotional waves of like grief or, you know, emotional turmoil of like stressed out or whatever, that I didn't have that desire to just like, just like go and shovel it all in, you know? So, yeah, my big reason why, that kind of like pushed me was I didn't want that future for me that my grandparents had. I knew, sorry. Ooh,
Okay.
I'm a crier. I'm an artist, so I'm super sensitive.
Time.
I knew that both of the ways that they died could have been avoided. Like there was no reason that either one of them had to die. There are people that I see on a daily basis that are older than them, that are physically active, that are, you know, taking part in their life, like amidst stuff that they've gone through, that are pushing through it, that, you know, get help and connect with others to kind of like, you know, push forward. Neither one of them had to die. Neither one of them. But, you know, it's pretty shitty to say, but that was their choice. Like that's, and it, you know, doesn't change the way I feel. I still love them, but man, that was that, like, that was their choice.
Yeah. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I will say that there is a level of propaganda from the government and different agencies, and there's companies that do things as sneaky, but you
Yep.
know, I think we all know
Right.
that the foods we're eating, some of the habits that we have, they're not good for us. Even if the doctor says, "Oh, it's fine,"
Nope.
you know,
No, because
you know.
how many courses of nutrition do they really take? And that's, I could go on a tangent for that, like a whole nother. But yeah, like they were the type of like, you know, do what the doctor says and take the medicine the doctor tells you. And I'm like, you know, I never shoved anything down their throat. It was like, I liked to lead by example of like things that, you know, I had spurts of weight loss methods and stuff that worked for me.
Mm,
You know, they saw that I maybe lost a few pounds here and there, and they would like make an attempt. But, you know, when they didn't see that immediate gratification, they were like, oh no, we're done. Like, we're good. I'm like, and then they just, you know, got worse and worse and worse and more medications. And like my grandfather had like this big container of pills on the top of his fridge that, you know, my husband, when we would go over there to their house to visit, he would just like, oh my God, look at all the, like a giant Tupperware container, like filled with pill bottles. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be like that. It does not have to be like that.
and it doesn't. It honestly, what and you know, and I don't have a problem with doctors as an individual. I
Right.
think a lot of doctors do think that they're helping people as best they can.
Yep.
It's just that, you know, it's they're prolonging death. I feel like there's no real healing going on in our
It
mainstream
should be
medical.
the other way around. You should be prolonging your health and life. Like,
Right, exactly. And so we see this deterioration, and that's sad. My grandma went through the same thing. I was just telling one of my friends the other night that she probably got dementia and then died maybe about 8 years later or so. I can't really remember. But I tell people all the time, when she passed, I wasn't sad because I had already grieved. She was already gone because of the health condition. And once again, that's something that could have been avoided. I mean, my grandma didn't eat healthy at all. Like that I have two grandmas, but that particular one, she didn't eat healthy at all. My other grandma, who is about the same age as the one that passed, same name, oddly enough. She's like in her 90, almost. Well, I don't want to get mad at me. She's almost 90, or she just turned 90. I can't remember, but she's still fairly healthy. I mean, she's still fairly active, and
yep.
those were just two different choices with their diets. So I find that, and you touched on something that I think is really, really interesting, something we need to highlight, that your grandparents were kind of focused on like the negative energy is really what it boiled down to, is living in grief. And it's just like that right there also causes health issues. It also puts strain on the body. And we have to not live in those places.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know they would just perpetuate on that, like I said, living every day like my mom had just passed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, you know, sit there and commiserate with them because I didn't agree with that. My sisters, I have two sisters, an older and a younger sister that live in New Hampshire, New England. And, you know, they would, oh, you know, it's okay. Like they had the depression and just so many subsequential health conditions just develop because of that, like, oh, that sadness, that stress that you're putting on your body. Oh, and it's
Yeah.
just builds and builds and builds to worse and worse. And before you know it, you've got like a laundry list of health ailments that, you know, you just shouldn't even need to have, that, you know, just reach out and get with the resources that you need to work through it and to get better.
Right. And that's, I mean, you know, that's an important point to make, because at the end of the day, we can wallow and we can stay depressed and we can live in that, or we can make the choice to get out of it.
Yep.
Everybody has lost somebody
Oh, yeah.
important to them. You know, I think it's horrible for a parent to lose their child. I think that's probably one of the worst pains. I mean, it's not something I've personally experienced, but just the way people describe it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, life literally always has to go on. And one of the things I'm personally working on is learning to understand that death isn't how we've been taught like it is. You
Right.
know, people don't like just vanish and then that's the end of them. They just, it might just be that we don't have access to them, but they're still on their
Physical
journey.
being isn't here, but their spiritual being, I feel, is still here.
Exactly.
I'm a big
I wanted to ask you, just for clarity purposes, for those who may not understand, just kind of going back for a second here. You
absolutely.
said that your first few fasts were just doing a 16/8 schedule. What exactly is that for those who don't understand what that is?
So 16/8, I fasted for 16 hours. So I would typically start my fast about 8 o'clock was my hour that I would stop eating, like whatever I was eating for the day. My fast would start at 8 p.m. that night, and I would not consume anything with calories until the following day, usually about like 1 o'clock or so would be
Nice.
when I broke my fast. And it would be something like, I would break it with some, like, my favorite thing to do was like mixed nuts or like some pistachios or
Mhm.
walnuts or almonds or something like that. And then I would have like something for lunch. And then a few hours later, I would have dinner with my kids. Like I really liked having, and I still to this day, I say it like past tense, I still do it, having like a family style kind of dinner. So
Mhm.
whatever I make and prepare, I put everything at the table. So like with spoons and everything, and put the plates out so the kids can like take out what they want. And like, I feel like it's a little bit more communicative that way, and a little bit more like, I don't know, that's just my style. But yeah, I would fast for 16 hours. My 8 hour window, I wasn't eating that entire duration. So
Right.
I would break it, and then I would, have something small to break it, usually something with a lot of higher fat, but, and again, usually plant-based because I don't have meat. And a very, like, when I have the option to, I will obviously not have dairy, but, I have had, stuff with like heavy cream and things here and there,
Right.
um, but it's been primarily, I break it with plant-based fats, and then I have my first meal, and then I'll wait a few hours and then have dinner. And I usually, like, once I really got into the cycle of that fasting schedule, that fasting lifestyle, I didn't find myself feeling like, oh, I need to have a dessert or I need to have this. Like those kind of cravings just kind of like disappeared after a while. So I wasn't like, oh, I have to have some ice cream, or oh, I have to have like something sweet at the end. It was just the more comfortable, and the more comfortable I got with that 16/8 hour fast, the more I was like, hey, I felt like once I was close to that 2 week period, I was like, man, this is starting to get like too easy. Like, I'm going to fuck this up somehow. I have to up, like, I was watching videos of like, what's next? Like, what's the next challenge? Let me try to conquer. So like, I was seeing videos where like you take that 16 and you bump that 16-hour fast up to 20. And then you have like your 4 hour eating window. I was like, all right, let's try that. And I pushed it a little bit further. And then of course I saw the scale go whoop, like
Yep.
down even further. And I'm over there like, yeah, chucking the scale. And I'm like, wait, and I'm like, this is wonderful. But then, I thoroughly enjoyed the challenge of it. Like, I feel like I conquered the 16/8 and I was like, this is great. Bumping that up to the 20-hour fast, 4 hour eating window. And I was like, yeah, this is good. But then I was like, all right, this is getting a little bit too easy. I'm going to fuck this up too. Let me like make it a little bit smaller. And then I just saw that like 23/1. And then I saw in like the different fasting communities on Facebook that I started joining at that point. And they're like, oh, that's too fast. And I'm like, no, that's too fast. That's too hard. That's too hard. And I'm like, if people are saying that's too hard, I'm like, I want to try it. Let me take a crack at that. So, I had that mentality. I was like, let me try it. Let me do it. I was like, every day that I saw like, progressing further towards, the ultimate goal, the more I was like, yeah, let's pump it up. Like, let's amp it up. Let's make it a little bit harder. Let's challenge myself a little bit more. Like, I conquered what I, thought I couldn't do before. Let's push a little bit further. Let's run a little bit longer and a little bit, harder.
I
And
love that.
I just kept challenging myself more and more and more. And I got so much emotional satisfaction and like emotional like stability from that whole process as well, that I just like, I can't put like a price on it or compare it
Mm.
to really anything. Very like, even to this day, like I ate dinner last night, so I'm in a fasted state and I'll probably break it tomorrow. But I feel so much more emotionally in control of, situations. So like when there's things that come up that like are way out of my control, that I'm like, I obviously can make a difference, but it's out of my circle, as I, explain to my kids sometime. Don't worry about it. Like if it's something you can control that is in your like whoop, in your hula hoop sort of thing, I tell them, worry about it, see what you can do to fix it and work forward. Otherwise it's not worth getting upset and, making yourself stress out about. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you challenged yourself, because I feel like a lot of times we do the opposite. We feel like it's too challenging and we kind of get down and we
You're like,
wallow.
nope. You're like, this is too tough. I'm done. Whoop. And you're just like throwing the towel already.
Yeah, but that gradual increase, I think, is perfect, because you bite off just a little bit more than you can chew. When you get it down, you're like, whoa, I was able to do that. And so it's very empowering to keep going like that. And I, in general, fasting, as you mentioned, is so empowering. You feel like, I know me personally, I feel like there's nothing I can't achieve. Because I went X amount of days without eating. They told me I should die and it was impossible.
I got blood work done today, and it was so funny because I was talking to a friend about this too. I had to get blood work done because with insurance and everything, getting established at a new doctor's office. And I went to the, that lab clinic to get it done. And I guess that's one of the things that you have to do when you get blood work done. So she asked me, she's like, have you been fasting? And I'm like, yeah, I've been fasting. Like, I'm just chatting her up. Like, she knows about fasting. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. So I like almost got into like a full-fledged like fasting conversation with her. I'm like, oh, sorry. And then like we got into it a little bit and she's like, you've not eaten since when? And I'm like, oh, I've done this before. And I'm like, Costa has 172 pounds and her eyes like bugged out of her head. I was like, let me show you my before picture here.
Yeah, you went a little bit too far. I don't know what the regimen is, but it's probably like a couple of hours. Like, hey, don't eat breakfast. You know what I mean? You start talking about
extra. I'm a little extra. That's
right. Yeah, but I have found that even doctors, because I think doctors suffer from sometimes that cognitive dissonance, especially when it comes to what their patients are able to accomplish and what the literature is saying, or sometimes they don't have any literature at all. But I feel like I've been hearing more and more doctors are like, hey, you should try not eating so much, or try eating more plants. Like I'm hearing it more and more because I feel like we're starting to get some of the clinical research and some of the things that are undeniable. And it's like, look at these people. I mean, you are a great example, and there's so many other people who are having these amazing results, and there's nothing bad happening. It's just like, we're just getting healthier. We look better, we feel better, we're living longer, we have a better, higher quality of living. So I appreciate you explaining that, because, a lot of people who are going to watch this, they're not really going to know how to go about it and how to do it. So when did you make the decision to stop eating, I guess, meat products? You don't eat them anymore?
I don't eat meat. No, I don't eat meat at all. I actually made the decision to not eat meat before I had my gallbladder removed, which I later found out was probably something I could have avoided with a different lifestyle change. But this was back in 2013. Yeah, 2013. Yeah, I haven't had any meat since then.
What was it? Were you having pain with your gallbladder, and that's what prompted you to?
After later learning and finding out what gallstone, like the reason for having your gallbladder out and gallstones, about like all the cholesterol and everything, and where does cholesterol? It doesn't come from plants. Like cholesterol doesn't come from plants, and all the issues with like the gallstones and all that stuff. So I was just like, you know what? I was very picky about the sources of meat that I ate, and was kind of not all too interested in different meat choices as it was. So it just felt pretty natural to kind of make the decision as well. And I have a really great friend that, helped to start me on that journey. That's still like to this day, she'll send me like recipes and like, hey, check out this vegan this. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to make it. Oh, that looks so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We get a lot of backlash. I know I have from people telling me that when you drop meat or animal products completely, it's a bad thing and this and that. And for me, it felt natural as well. I just feel like this is part of this journey. You start fasting, you start becoming more in tune with nature and spirituality, and your body.
Like vegetables. I crave vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really enjoy the way I cook. Like it's the variety of food. Because when you cook meat, you really have like staples, and I feel like you don't explore nearly as much. I made some mushrooms last night. I made ramen. I found some spelt noodles and I made
Yep.
ramen, and I pressed the mushrooms. So I like they gives it a more meaty texture. And all I did was put a little salt. They were so delicious. And I've never made ramen before. And if I was a meat eater still, I never would have made that. I just would have went to the store and bought it, you know?
It's like the actual natural sweetness of foods. Like you can actually, like when I go and have like when I get my coffee in the morning, like I can actually taste the natural sweetness of like the espresso. When I get my Americano from the coffee shop in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, I can taste like the actual like nuttiness of this. Like I don't add sugar to like really to anything. So to taste the actual authentic flavors of things just like is so good. And I find myself like I'll be passing by broccoli or whatever. Somebody will say broccoli and I just think like, oh, that tastes so good. I'm like, now I want some broccoli. Like,
Yeah, I'm actually a huge fan of broccoli too, and I stopped eating it for a while because I was learning about hybrid foods and stuff.
yeah,
I've started to incorporate it back into my diet now,
yeah.
but one thing that I did think was funny was like bell peppers. I didn't realize how sweet bell peppers can be, and
The colored bell peppers, like the red and the
yeah,
yellow and orange ones.
yeah.
Oh,
Like our fruit is really depleted of nutrients and some of the things that make them what they are. So imagine getting, I mean, you're in Florida, it might be a little bit better, but imagine getting some
it's
of
questionable.
the
Different sources.
imagine, having your reset your palate through fasting and then being able to get some real tropical fruit and stuff. Like it is really, really sweet stuff.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I find that I actually have to water, like I juice, and I
Yep.
have to water my juice down
Yep.
because it is actually really too sweet for me. So
Yep.
that's kind of like one of those off benefits of fasting that people don't think about or talk about. You're gonna have such unique and more pleasurable experiences eating food because your palate has been cleansed.
Very, very much so. Things just taste so much better. And I find that, the times that I do and find myself like in different situations, whether like a celebration or a party here and there, where they're like, oh, they have like the sweets and stuff out. And I'm like, I'll just have like, I know my moderation now where I'll have like a nibble or a bite or something.
Hmm.
I'll go to take a bite of it and I'm like, oh gosh, like it just tastes horrible. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like, first of all, way too sweet. And then it's just like, all I taste is chemicals and like junk. And I'm like, I'm done. Like I went to my kids, she had a speech therapy yesterday and I was like, oh, I want to, we had broken I had broken my fast. We had dinner before and I was like, oh, let me have a piece of candy. And I took one bite of it and I was like, nope, bleh. Like, just like, it all came out. I was like, nope, I'm done. No, changed my mind on that.
And that, and see, this is perfect because this is what makes maintaining this so easy. Because when you think about ketogenic diet and the Atkins diet and all these other carnivore diet and all these other things, you're not getting this type of benefit when you're
No.
using those diets. So you're more susceptible to slide back into those habits. With fasting, like you said, you could taste the chemicals. I remember maybe a year or so after I started fasting, I can't remember why, but somehow I had a Hostess cake.
Mm.
And I hadn't had one. I don't eat them that often anyway, but I hadn't had one in years. And I could taste all the chemicals and the texture and the waxiness. And I was just like, ugh,
Yep.
you know? And I haven't touched one since, haven't wanted one. Like, so it helps you to maintain your results by taking this path.
Yep. Absolutely does.
So outside of, okay, so you say you did have the gallbladder removed. Obviously you've lost a ton of weight, which is amazing because I know a lot of women believe they can't lose, the same amount of weight or as men, and you lost it using a very moderate schedule and just increasing it. Love that. Was there anything else that you, disease-wise, or that you noticed that kind of changed with going through this fasting process?
I noticed that I actually had symptoms of PCOS. I was told that I had ovarian cyst. I could feel them when they were tender and sore, like obviously couldn't feel them develop. I could
Okay.
feel when they were like inflamed and stuff. And many women, I'm sure, can relate to me on this. You can feel, whoo, when they puncture, when they burst. That
Mm,
is one of the most painful things. So I don't remember. I probably should have written it down when my last like feeling of that was, but I don't remember when that last was.
got
Like
it.
that's not been an issue for me anymore. And I know that's probably like, a woman thing, but like my cycles, my monthly cycles are just not an issue anymore. Like I used to have horrible cramps. It used to be like there just used to be such an unpleasant time of the month. Now I'm just like, hey, all right, it is what it is. Like, hi, hi. And then just like onward, gone to the next stuff sort of thing. I did have I noticed sugar cravings, like I said before, just I don't have cravings for sugar and sweets and stuff, and that like that nighttime routine of like wanting to have something to eat at night before you go to bed.
Mhm.
Don't have that anymore. And then like I said, the emotional eating, I feel like I conquered that dragon or slayed the dragon probably about only like a couple months into doing it and just bumping up the intensity. And then like once I like conquered that OMAD like 23-1, then I was like, all right, well, I'm doing some extended fasting now. I feel like I'm ready. So like I started pushing myself little by little and like really learning about how to properly do an extended fast and like really listening and tuning into the way that my body dynamic was telling me how I felt and like everything. So yeah, as far as like health stuff, I think that was pretty, yeah. Oh, and I have had like really bad like aches, pains, and joint inflammation, swelling and stuff that has diminished so much.
Mm.
Um, I still, every once in a while, like when the weather fluctuates and the barometric pressure, not to get all like, super sciencey, but, you could tell like if you have general aches and pains, because I have had 2 auto accidents. I was rear-ended. They're both like pretty much the same.
Mm.
But like every once in a while, like when you have rainy weather, kind of like today, I get a little bit achy,
Right.
but I will try to avoid using my over-the-counter like naproxen sodium. I use herbal supplements, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
And that helps. I got my card for
Oh,
legal in the
okay.
state of Florida. So, yeah, so not to be like shady or nothing, but I definitely am a proponent, a fan of that. So when it's time for the kids to go to bed, and if I need to help myself to get to bed, yeah. But I've managed it very, very well, and fasting has been a huge help in that journey as well.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm going to send you a link when we finish
Yep.
for it's a lotion, but
Yep.
it's made with essential oils. It's
Yep.
called Deep Blue,
Ooh,
and it is amazing for pains and aches.
that's
And it's herbs. So,
yeah.
just something real simple, easy to kind of like aid with it. I
Yep.
think you should definitely try it out. I've seen some really really amazing results with people using that as well as myself.
Yep.
So I'm definitely gonna hook you up with that. I think you might like that.
Neat.
I think it's you. You mentioned the PCOS. My sister, I did an interview with my sister maybe a couple years ago now, where she was dealing with it very extreme. So I'm
Mhm.
familiar with the aches and the pains and the days and weeks where she couldn't go to work and things of that nature. It's cool that you mentioned that because I feel like having repeated guests come on and talk about the same issues
Yep.
and how they've started to resolve helps to breed confidence in this process. It's like
Absolutely.
fasting works and it works holistically and it does work for some of these issues that we have that we're told we got to live with. So I love that you mentioned that. I was curious, you mentioned that you did start doing some prolonged fasting. What's the longest like prolonged fast you've done?
14 days.
Wow.
Yeah. 14 days. And that was actually like I broke it because I had different commitments coming up that I knew I needed to space out and allow myself to break that fast healthily and safely in that appropriate amount of time.
Right.
Otherwise I would have gone longer.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how you should do it. That, I mean, me and John talk. Me and John talk about this all the time. People are like, should I neglect my social life? Should I neglect engagements when I'm fasting? I'm like, well, why don't you try
Life.
to
That's
work?
your life. You got to find
Yeah,
balance.
like work around it. You
Mhm.
know?
Make it work for you. Yeah, it should be
Yeah,
fasting should be a tool in your tool belt and not like this like big brick wall that's in your way and you have to like figure out and conquer, break. No, no.
yeah,
Make it a little like ace in the pocket, ace in the hole in your back pocket sort of thing. Your tool when, you need the help for it.
yeah. And also, when you do slip up, if you want to say that, or have a little dairy or whatever, it's like that you have that tool that can help to eliminate the detrimental effects of poor eating habits very, very effectively. The only thing is, I tell my friend all the time, I said, don't abuse fasting, because
Mm.
he actually does. He like will eat. Well, he eats out all the time, and then once a month or something like that, he'll do like this long fast, which is fine. That's what he chooses to do,
Yep.
and I'm just joking with him. I'd rather him do that than not.
Right.
You know,
If
but
that's their balance, if that's their way of finding a balance, then that should be it. What I've seen that I don't agree with is when, of course you're going to have those indulgent days and it's about finding the balance between like times of feasting and times of fasting and find that like, that little, what's that 90s little like black the yin yang little
Mhm.
like balance thing of like fasting and feasting. I see all the time in the different fasting groups I'm in of like people just talking down to themselves so much because they had an indulgent day and I slipped up, I wanted to go faster and I slipped up. You should never self-talk, to
Mm,
have talk like that about yourself, because that, just like I said earlier about my grandparents, that just sends you on that like that spiral, and before you know it you're like you're way down off the track, and it gets harder to get back on when you're beating yourself up, and you like just accept the days, because you're going to have shit days, and it's about finding that balance between like I could have an indulgent day here and I plan to have a fasting day here. Whenever I do like extended fasts, I always just keep it open-ended. Like I never say I'm going to do this this amount of days fasting and I'm going to go this long, because I
yeah.
feel like having an open-minded and like a loving, like open, accepting kind of mentality for my journey just is more beneficial than to be like it has to be this and it has to be like check black and white, like it's got to be this. It's so fluid and like flexible, and it's got to be, because that's life. Like
Yep.
I never expected my husband to pass away like he did, and it's stuff that you can't plan for, so you have to, like, as they say, roll with the punches, so to speak. But that's true. Like it's got to be a lifestyle that you just welcome the good days with the bad days. You gotta love them both like equally. You gotta love them both.
Wow. This is it's been quite some journey for you. You
Yes.
know? I'm happy that you found something that you can do to help keep you balanced, because
Mhm.
that experiencing those losses can completely throw you off. And it's like I really hope that there's someone that this resonates with. I know there's somebody out there who's dealing with something in a similar situation, and what I have found is that fasting does help you emotionally so much. It helps you mentally so much.
Yep.
And we focus on the weight loss and things like that. It's cool, but there's so many more benefits to it that you can't. It's priceless.
As an
You know?
emotional being, like I felt so stable in handling my emotions. Like I mentioned it in the post that I made, but I was continuing on my journey, even though I knew my husband. We found out my husband was, needing a heart transplant the end of April of 2019. And then that whole time period of like him, like, figuring out if he's going to get approved for disability and going back and forth to appointments and then in and out of the hospital for, sickness here and there. And like, that's emotionally freaking
Oh,
taxing as that is. And to keep fasting onward and onward was just so emotionally stabilizing for me.
mm,
And then when he further progressed to his last time that he was in the hospital, and then to find out, like, we were, I found out, the day of, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. I went to the hospital where he was at because he was back into the hospital with hospital acquired pneumonia. And, when I went in, that was our wedding anniversary on November 8th, 2018. And I went in and I was like, hey, happy anniversary. I leaned over the bed, gave him a kiss and stuff. And, he's like, oh, I love you and stuff. And he had it in his mind that he was going to be going home to do cardiac rehab and, work towards eventually getting that heart transplant. Later in the day, it was a nurse that came in and she's like, hi, are you his wife? And I was like, yeah. She goes, hi, I'm from palliative care. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And she's like, I got to go do something and I'll be right back. As soon as she walked away, I'm like, what is palliative care? And I'm like, I looked it up on my phone. Terminal illness, basically like hospice nurse for like terminal illnesses that are like, yeah. And she pulled me out into the hallway and was like, I don't know how to tell you this besides being straight and to the point. She's like, your husband is dying and he's not going to be coming out of this. And it was like one of those moments that you see in a movie where like they're in the hallway and you see like the doctor talking to the, the person, and they're back up against the wall and they just drop. And that was me. Like I just dropped to the floor. But, I obviously emotionally lost it. But, obviously, like I said before, I fast every single day. I just felt like I didn't even think about it. I was just like, I'm fasting. I'm fasting through today and whatever this, fucking journey brings along for him. I said, I need to be emotionally here and like present and not let whatever, emotional feeding monsters come over me that I know are going to be like, hey, Vicki, no, get out of here. I knew that I had to kind of keep emotionally stable for obviously myself, my kids. I didn't want him as he progressed to see me just like stuffing my face because that wouldn't be what he wanted. So we found out he was going to hospice on the 8th on our wedding anniversary. The 9th is when he was transferred to hospice and he passed away on the 10th in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like that. And I fasted. That was an extended fast through that whole time. I fasted. I didn't eat a damn thing. And I obviously was like an emotional, grieving potential widow. But I knew like so many people like, oh, Vicki had, donuts here and food there. And I was just like, I don't want any of it. Like, it wasn't I'm fasting, I'm going to refuse it. It was, I just don't want it. I'm keeping emotionally level right now. And indulging in that is going to send me like where I don't want to be right now. And that's not good, obviously, for my health or mental stability. It's not good for me. In the long run, I needed to be present in those emotions and in control of that situation, because I knew if I didn't, I would be a hot mess, total hot mess.
Wow. That's I don't know if I ever really thought about this to this moment. The things that we eat, that we comfort foods, is cakes, and people pass in the funerals and we're eating all these things. They perpetuate the negative energy because we're chemistry.
Yep.
And all of these foods we eat, these chemicals that we're eating, are causing hormonal imbalances in our body, which are not doing us any good.
Nope.
So, and I had talked to my brother. He's an emotional roller coaster. He goes up and down. And when I was trying to get him into fasting because he was like 375 pounds, and I was trying to get him into fasting. And he was going through a divorce, and his wife was kind of like, I don't know if she was on drugs, but it was just like a crazy situation. And he was very emotionally distraught. And I was like, yo, Steve, you got to try this fasting, man. Not only is it going to help you lose weight and get healthier, but I'm telling you, it's going to help you get through this highly emotional and this sensitive time. It's very empowering. And it took him a while, but eventually he started fasting, and he was like, Chris, I wish I would have listened sooner.
Yep.
So while some people use the things that happen in their life as an excuse not to do it, it's really your excuse to do it. It should be your motivation.
That's me. That's been my motivation, just to keep going, to keep pushing forward, to stay healthy, to stay, emotionally stable, to stay strong. Like I feel like a freaking powerhouse. Like when I'm fasting, it's something that like I said, I can hardly describe. It's so friggin' powerful. I love the way that I feel when I'm fasting. It's like better than any like artificial, like, medicine can provide. So I absolutely love it.
True. And your energy is really, really amazing. And you know what I mean? Like I could just, I don't know how you were before. All I know is how you are now. You just, I really like your energy.
Thank you.
That's the best way I can put it.
Natural. Woo!
Okay. I have another question. I've gotten out of asking my guests this question. You can feel free not to answer it. No problem.
Give me the hard ones. Give me all the hard ones. I want them.
People get on me about this question, and I'm like, all right. They always want to know, do you have loose skin, or are you dealing with loose skin, or, that whole loose skin question. So is that something you want to talk about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I did share some pictures, and I think to some posts that I was able to add additional pictures of, I think that I took yesterday when I was at the gym. I do this little like hydro massage kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some loose skin. I do notice, however, that it is so much less than what it could be if I were to do like a calories in, calories out sort of thing. Because I noticed, like how you were saying before about your skin, that skin elasticity, I'm noticing, like I'm looking at my arms and like I find myself just like looking at my hands like, wow, my hands are so pretty. And I'm like, oh, like this wasn't like this before. It was just like lump, chunk, chunk. And I just like, of course, as women, sometimes we have like the underarm.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I would so much rather fucking take a little bit of like saggy skin here, a little bit like extra here, like a little bit. And of course, I've got like, the residual stretch marks. I had 2 kids, both C-sections. So I've got like the C-section scars and a little bit of the stretch marks. I do have some loose skin. I've got a little bit in between my legs, but I see it the more I do those extended fast and like accessing that autophagy, like it just like, whoa, and everything just kind of like morphs and like just kind of like tightens and firms up, like hydrating with water, like obviously making sure you get plenty of water when you're doing the extended fast, as well as days of intermittent fasting helps so much. And I notice, everything like lifting, if that makes sense. So like, I notice I'm always comparing pictures from like way when I'm at my max capacity of like, 365 pounds where I was, to see how I am now. And like I said, if at the end of when I am reach the point where I'm maintaining, if I have a little bit of loose skin, excuse me, but I don't give a fuck. Like, so what? Like, that's my constellation prize. I'm like, woo, I will gladly take that instead of having to wear like, not being able to fit in a chair, not being able to cross my legs. If I got to deal with like a little bit of loose skin, whatever. Like, I thank you for the constellation prize. I will gladly take that instead of being like morbidly obese, like those classifications on like the BMI chart, like to know, that when you reach the obese class 3, that like you're just way off in that morbid obesity classification, and to know that I am on the verge of like that overweight to normal like I'm right close to like where it's going to be onto the normal, and I'm ready for that. And I'm like, loose skin, you want to come with me? Let's go. We're going together. Like, we're going as a team.
The loose skin thing is it's a fear for a lot of people, because like if you go on YouTube and you type
vanity.
in loose skin,
yeah.
Well, yeah, it is, but it's like you see that people are pulling off like skin like it's a shirt, And I tell people all the time, that type of loose skin.
I mean, I don't know if it's the type of channel, but I can show you on my stomach the little bit that's.
You're more than welcome.
All right. So I've got a little bit right here, but like I said, as you can see in those pictures, it used to, this fold right here used to wrap all the way around, and now like it's just a little bit like this, and as you can see, it's lifting. Like each day it lifts a little bit more. And I've been doing planks at the gym, and I can hold a 6-minute plank now. At 365 pounds, I could not do that. But I would like a little bit here, and it's like lifting and firming, and I can feel like when I lay down, my abs are like So I'm like, if I gotta deal with a little bit of loose skin, I don't care. Like, I don't care at all.
And you know, that is because, like, compared to what you, for almost losing 200 pounds, you really should have way more. I mean, comparatively speaking, when you're
Yep.
when you're looking at the traditional calories in, calories out,
Fasting.
yeah. So, and also keep in mind, and this is the point that I wanted to make, as you continue to do this, it's going to just keep getting better. It's
Mhm.
not, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's a big difference, because with the other people, their loose skin is with them.
Yep.
There is no getting any better.
Nope. It's they gotta, either deal with it or get that cosmetic surgery, which my mom passed away from getting breast implants. So that has made me a huge,
Wow.
you know, proponent of going against anything like changing yourself, unnecessarily. And like to see, to have fasting promote like your body's ability to morph, and with the autophagy, using those like saggy skin cells and like consuming them, and like as an after effect, yeah, your skin firms up more and more. To have that instead of like, hey, I lost 200 pounds with calories in, calories out, and we're eating right and going to the gym and like nothing else. Like how you see in the shirt, you see them like pulling it off. They have no choice to either deal with it with like compression clothes or to get it cosmetically removed. Who
Right.
wants to do that? Like, let your body, like I always tell people too, your body, I always feel it as, is a multi-million-dollar house that you get to live in.
Mm.
So why the hell are you going to treat it badly? Like, if you find like I'm a huge Monty Python fan, the holy grail of health and prosperity in life, go with it. Like fasting for me, that's my holy grail. Like like the Jesus, like the God in the sky, where he's like, that's that fasting. That's it for me. Like
Yeah.
that's my holy grail. Absolutely. So that is like I like the duct tape of health for me. It just helps everything. Helps absolutely everything.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. And I will say that with the extended fast, so if we're talking 3 weeks or more, I find that during the 3 week period of time, that's when you see a lot of the shrinking and tightening
Oh
happening.
yeah.
So shooting for those, 21 to 30-day fast, even though those seem extreme and long for a lot of people, that helps tremendously with loose skin, you know. But
Absolutely.
you're doing all the right things. I'm very confident you're going to continue to see that tighten up, and I don't think it'll be long before it's really nothing. My brother John, he lost 100 pounds,
Yeah,
and
I've seen those
he
videos.
he had a little bit of fat underneath his right, like his belly area, that periods of time it completely went away. I don't know if it's something that he's currently still dealing with. I think it's completely gone by now, but even the little bit, which you can't even, I wouldn't even classify that as loose skin. It's just not on the same
Nope.
wavelength
Nope.
as,
I don't feel it is. No.
yeah. So, Vicki, I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak about anything else that maybe I didn't touch on, or anything else that you kind of want to bring up.
I wrote some notes here, but we pretty much covered a lot of it. Like I said before, loving to me, when I talk to friends that reach out to me, my big thing that I stress is educating yourself on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and like educating yourself. I went to school for education for art certification, teacher certification. So I'm a huge like nerd. Oop, I don't care. Anyway, so educating yourself is probably one of the most important things on this journey. You have to have that like rock solid, like, and I tell people this on different videos that I've done on my Facebook and stuff when I share with people. I tell people your why has to be like, Indiana Jones and that giant, you know, that
Rock,
giant stone
boulder.
that rolls towards him. Yeah, that giant, thank you, boulder that rolls toward him. Your why has got to be like that friggin' huge. It's got to be like massive, catastrophic why. And you have to hold on to that and not let it go. Educating yourself, having that incredible, like propelling why is so important. And loving the journey throughout the entire process. Like I mentioned earlier, you have got to love. Obviously, you're going to love those good days. Can be like, woo, I just hit 5 pounds lost in a week or whatever, But then when you go and refeed, if you've, did an extended fast, or, you go have a get together or a party on the weekend, and then you go and start back on Monday, and you're like, oh, I'm like 5 pounds. Educate yourself on why that fluctuation was there, so that you don't have that like, oh man, I just fucked this all up and it's all messed up now and I'm going to go and like go off the rails. Right. No, you have got to love it out of this journey, the good days and the bad days, because those bad days, like how we were talking earlier, those bad days, that balance is going to happen. You're going to have those indulgent, days, and then you're going to have the fasting days. And as long as you keep that balance, there's nothing to hate about this journey at all. Like it's all gravy, baby, except we're not eating that gravy. That's my big thing. Love the journey, educate yourself, and love the hell out of this journey, because it will rock your world in the best way possible if you let it. And I'm living proof of that. And I still can't believe it to this day. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Excellent. Well, enough said. One thing I want to let the audience know, I do have the Fasting Academy available, the AHA Fasting Academy. And the reason why I developed this thing is to help promote some of these points Vicki was making, is really educating yourself, understanding the process, and having a community that can back you up and help support you so that you don't take those spirals out of control. And you're doing the right thing. You feel like you've taken a step backwards, and then you just run away with it. And now all of a sudden you're all off the wagon and everything. So check out the ahafastingacademy.com if you are looking for some, structure in your journey. It helps out a lot. And I think that it'll help you get results really quick. I've got a program on there called 30 Pounds in 30 Days, How to Lose 30 Pounds in 30 Days. And it really does work. People report back to me losing 28 pounds, 32 pounds, 30 pounds. So, I just wanted to throw that out there. But it's been an amazing time talking to you. Your energy's amazing. I really look forward to speaking to you again. Hopefully, I'd like to check in with you in a few months and see what the journey has brought you. That's pretty much all I've got. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. I do videos every Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And as always, the application of knowledge is power. And I'll see you all next time.